It's me, Flex Mike. Oh, there he is. The dead snow is back. Flex Snow's back.
There we
We
go.
are back.
The Flex Network is here back live. As the great philosopher Matthew once said, "Oh, yes, we are back." What is up, Snowman? And allow me to drop this right here, your favorite part of the Flex Network wrestling show that we do is this right here.
We are live.
We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We are streaming. We're doing our thing here. I got a little bit of coffee. I don't know if you've been watching the news, Snowman, but some tornadoes came rolling through Texas a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm over in the Fort Worth area, so I didn't have to deal with it. That was over in the Dallas area, but it messed some people's houses up, and it pretty much flattened a Home Depot, and yeah, it messed a lot of stuff up. So luckily we didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, you know it's kind of bad when Home Depot gets destroyed.
Right.
But
you're like, okay, who's mad?
God, obviously, and Mother Nature, obviously. But yeah, I mean, guys, we're back. We're back. And we're at number 7 on the list. And as you can see on my end up here in the great state of Washington, I have some new surroundings and I've kind of got some new background stuff, including a Mr. Matt's behind my back now.
He's over his shoulder, more like.
Well, he's just behind me. Yeah, let's just get that in the pecking order. He's behind me.
Well, today anyway.
The Rich Wilder of this network.
Right. So today I'm wearing a shirt like I am any other day, but the significance of today's shirt is important. Let me see if you can guess who this is on first glance.
Oh, God. Good God. Why? Why?
The one and only hockey mom, Sarah Palin. You like that shirt right there, Snowman?
Yeah, interesting, but we're actually thinking today because we're wearing hockey.
Oh,
we got the hockey swag going today.
Yeah, well, no other sports matter until the NFL season is over. I just don't ever pay attention to them until football's over because that's my one seed, you know. And so anyway, today.
Before we get into today's introductions, happy 2K WWE 2K Day.
Yeah,
WWE 2K is released nationwide.
I did not go get it, but I know that you probably have the Super Deluxe Ultra Fan Edition.
Yes, a little cheap plug with WWE 2K Collector's Edition, the SmackDown 20th anniversary. Yeah.
Thank you, Mick Foley, for the thumbs up.
Gotta get that cheap pop in there with
plug
with WWE 2K20.
So you know where Snowman's gonna be at. He's gonna be rocking his he's gonna be rocking the 2K, probably calling sick to work tomorrow and say, sorry guys, I'm out of there. I can't. Well, now that I've said it on the broadcast, you can't do it.
No, I'm not going to. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I would not do that.
So today is we are going through the top 15. We are officially into the top half of the list.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get there, I just want to throw out a couple of things for our watchers slash listeners. The Snowman can be found right here, talking professional wrestling through the Flex Network's Twitter. If you wanted to find that, that is at FlexNet_PW Elite. You can find him there. He will get going crazy on anything he's hearing, any opinions and stuff that he has. And don't forget about tomorrow. Today's Tuesday. On Thursday,
Tuesday.
yeah, I'm going tomorrow. How about that? I have an NFL show going tomorrow, and so you can find us right here, same exact spot. I'll be with my guy Cam. We'll be doing that. Thursday we'll have the Snowman doing a week in review with SmackDown, Raw, AEW, NXT, and anything else that he feels like throwing in there. And so we'll get all that going. But as for today is the number 7 top feud / storyline, which is Undertaker versus Austin versus Vince, end of an era.
So, oh,
yes.
And if you saw the intro, which we did way back in the month of September, which I told you this was good. This was a list you want to be up to date with, because this is hella good storytelling, good rivalries. And I told you guys, you got to watch the show, because stuff like that, it will make an appearance.
Right.
We'll just hop back in the time machine and go all the way back to September 4th.
So today's show is actually very interesting, because with our other feuds that we've talked about, or our other storylines that we've talked about, we've kind of hinted at this one a few times.
Mm-hmm.
We opened the show with you under the cloak, so we have hinted at it there, and we've kind of talked about it before when we've talked about Austin in the past, or talked about Triple H in the past. Some of those storylines lead directly into tonight's storyline, and so it's good that we're finally here to talk this storyline, because this is a rather big storyline as far as Attitude Era goes. This storyline was one of the more memorable storylines, because this is when Vince McMahon finally fully asserts himself into the picture with.
Oh, not he was already into this whole thing with Austin back in '98.
Well, I know the Austin stuff, but outside of Austin, he hasn't really messed with a whole lot of, in-ring style stuff, as far as like other people putting their hands on him at the level that Austin has and stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is really kind of like, this is like, okay, Vince is in it now. He's not this untouchable CEO, which he should be the untouchable CEO, because nowadays he's like, I don't even know how old he is, 67, 70, something like that. But he's the billionaire, the president, the boss. The biggest boss you can get at WWE. He is the man. And so we have an appearance from the Snowman Cat back there. A cat. Okay. Anyway, so number 7, like I said, Undertaker versus Austin versus Vince, end of an era. Snowman, go ahead and take us into it.
Okay. And we're going to start at something very, very rare. We're going to start on the very rare pilot episode of SmackDown. Yes, I'm talking about the not official, first episode that we talked about with Triple H a while back, or a couple episodes ago. This is the idea, the a sample of what would be.
Okay, time out. This is kind of hurting my brain a little bit, because I don't remember this.
Okay, so remember the actual very first SmackDown with Rock, Triple H in a one-on-one match with Shawn Michaels, WWF title. That was the first ever SmackDown show.
Okay.
On UPN back then, which would be the CW network now.
UPN.
Yeah. But like any good, like WWE Backstage that's happening now, they had a preview show recently on FS1, and they're going to have their actual start show next month on November 5th.
Right.
So this episode of SmackDown was just a kickstart, a introduction to SmackDown. Granted, they were still using the Raw set, and everything, but they had the SmackDown graphics and everything. So this was a pilot just to see if it would get up off the ground. And this was the night and this is after WrestleMania, like 2 months after WrestleMania 15 with Rock and Austin.
Yeah, so this puts us at April 29th, 1999 is the pilot episode.
Yes.
Okay.
And now while Vince and Steph, started off the show just thanking everyone from the previous Raw who had, when Steph got was getting sacrificed to become the Undertaker's bride in an unholy wedding. if you may, literally the unholy wedding.
Right, I remember that.
And how do weddings pretty much go in WWE?
They get ruined.
except for Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
but everything else is blown up.
Right.
And that, that's what happened with Raw the previous Monday. But this was Vince was coming out with Steph just to thank, Ken Shamrock, Big Show, and Stone Cold of all people to come save Stephanie and take out the Ministry of Darkness and Undertaker and scare them off.
Right.
And in this time period, Vince is kind of protecting Stephanie, a younger Stephanie. Let's be honest, not the Stephanie we know now or the 2001 Stephanie where she's, drunk with power, or sorry, the 2099 or 2000 Stephanie where she's drunk with power with Triple H later, but a sweet, innocent Stephanie McMahon. And basically we get, these thank yous, and then Shane McMahon, who's on this drunken power trip with the corporation of Triple H, China, Bossman, Test, just to name a few, and the posse, the Main Street Posse. And they come out, and Shane's on this power trip of just, Vince, you need to go. You don't run the show anymore. Where's your big cojones the size of grapefruits? I want that Vince back. Until you do, get the step in. And so this drunken power Shane is just making matches left and right, especially with the two top guys on the hit list for him, The Rock and Stone Cold. And makes a match later in the night with for the tag team match between Rock and Austin teaming together against Triple H and someone who wants to take Shane up on this offer. And by me, if you say take or any version of taker, you're going to get the Undertaker in this instance. But so now it's a tag team. We get the tag team match in the beginning of the night, set up for the main event. Well, after a brief cup of coffee and couple matches, Austin and Rock come out, cut promos on themselves about the match later and how they don't trust each other from WrestleMania and the Backlash rematch a month prior. And Shane McMahon comes out and he is like, do you guys feel this power? The power that is in the air. And here's how it plays. And out comes Undertaker, standing side by side with the entire ministry and the corporation, and the infamous moment of Austin, Rock, let me be the first to introduce you to the corporate ministry.
Bum, bum, bum.
Literally, bum, bum, bum. So that is the night that the corporate ministry forms. And you thought the corporation was bad. You thought the ministry of darkness was bad. These two together is an unholy power galore. You talk about Undertaker and this ministry of darkness, just pure evil form. Viscera, Midian, acolytes, members of the Brood. Well, actually, they just lost the Brood before the week before.
Right.
Paul Bearer, Corporation, Hunter, China, Bossman, Posse. So all this group, this entire group, just together.
It's just a massive faction at this point.
Yeah. So and that's basically the how do I want to put I can't figure out the right word for this, but that is essential for this one episode, is for the pilot episode, is the introduction of the corporate ministry.
Okay.
So I have a question for you, Michael.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
Do you remember what, the next Raw we're going to actually talk about is a very famous Raw. Do you know why it's a famous Raw, at least in television history, for WWE at that time?
Okay, so what give me the Raw date, and then I'll see if I can piece it together.
May 10th, 1999.
Does someone lose a title on TV?
No.
Let's see.
I will even give you another hint.
Okay.
This is still in the Monday Night Wars era. We're still in Monday Night Wars. So what do you think is the most specific?
Okay, so this must be the Raw that was the highest rated Raw in history?
Yes.
Okay.
8.1.
That's so the 8.1, 8 is million, right? 8.1 million views. Yes.
This is the highest rated Raw in WWE history at that time. I'm sure that there's been others. I'm not going to try and figure it out, right? Go through and look at everything.
Right.
But this is significant because this is where you have, this is getting closer and closer to Undertaker versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWF title at Over the Edge. And I'm going to get to that in a moment because we all know that day. Everyone knows that in the world of wrestling. Yeah. But let's talk about this little Raw, this important Raw with Vince McMahon, Mankind, Big Show, Test, and the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock. There's a name you haven't heard in a while. A long while.
Ken Shamrock, yeah.
Yes. The world's most dangerous man kind of formed a union. They were part of a union of disgruntled former members of the corporation, if you will. And they come out with riot police. And
I was going to say, so they're going to protest or
no, they're going to call out the corporate ministry. They're going to call them out. They want to fight.
Okay.
But before they get to scrapping, lights cut out. And you see on the Titantron, just this, I'll just use, my 2K as an example. Oh, the weather looks very nice up here in San Antonio, Texas, then Connecticut. And out on the Titantron comes Shawn Michaels, the commish. And he proceeds to, change some matches around and add some matches for the night. We will have the matches in the description when we post on later on.
Yeah.
So we'll have everything posted, but he proceeds to make matches, to give the union and an advantage on the night rather than and give the disadvantage to corporate ministry.
Okay.
And proceeds to make for his own entertainment an evening gown match for the World Wrestling Federation Women's title between Deborah and Sable.
All right.
So yeah, moving along.
two classic divas. Or I guess women's wrestlers. I don't know what they called them at that time, but
it was just women. They were women at that time.
Yeah.
But one of the matches that actually was part of the reason of this 8.1 viewership was a rematch between Rodney and Pete Gas of the Posse taking on Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson in a tag team match. And the loser leaves the WWF.
Okay.
Can you explain to me how a former Intercontinental Champion and the founder of Gerald Briscoe's Body Shop Bros are going to take on basically the two stooges of the WWF, literally the stooges.
Yeah.
Taking on Rodney and Pete Gas.
It's just funny because it's like nowadays in the WWE, you would be like really hard pressed to find any type of match or story like this, even if it is just for one night. It's like the I don't know, the creative, the writing, blah blah blah, whatever you want to call it, just isn't ready to pull the trigger on stuff like that. Like nowadays, that would be entertaining.
Oh yeah, and granted, this was the highest point of the Raw show.
Right.
Mind you not, this was the highest rated segment at that time.
Right.
And so but moving on to the main event, which was made by Commissioner Shawn Michaels, was a 6-man tag with Undertaker, Triple H, and the Boy Wonder Shane McMahon taking on Stone Cold, The Rock, and Vince McMahon. One-on-one, but in a 6-man tag, but there had to be a special guest referee for this headlining match, this show-stopping match. But Shawn Michaels is in Texas, right? He's supposed to be. He's on the Titantron saying he's in San Antonio, but
supposed to be.
But this is where Shawn's like, oh well, this is why I sent out those fine gentlemen out in riot gear, and they start to take off their helmet. One of them was former the first ever Intercontinental Champion, Pat Patterson. The other one was a Gerald Briscoe, and the third one, in a very nonchalantly, he's like, "Hey, is that a nightstick in your pants? Or are you just excited to be there?" It's like, it's like, right, Miss Officer Number 3, step on up and show us what you got. Now hit the music. It's HBK's theme, and it's Shawn Michaels in riot gear. And Shawn Michaels announces himself as a special guest referee.
Right.
So that was one hell of a match. Following Monday was just more buildup for Over the Edge.
So this is Raw May 17th, 1999.
Yes, and the highlight of this night was, I'm just going to highlight so we could get on further down.
Okay.
Was the night that Undertaker was trying to attach Stone Cold Steve Austin, or essentially handcuff him to his symbol.
Oh, to the it was like the Undertaker cross, right?
Yeah, the unholy cross, and his symbol that he's known for. Yeah.
Okay.
If you guys look, search online, Undertaker symbol, it's it's cool. I
Okay.
kind of want to get that tattoo, but on me. But Undertaker tries to handcuff Austin to this at the end of the night during the main event, but he essentially his plans go up in smoke and backfire as Austin gets him handcuffed to the symbol. And Undertaker is like in this fit of rage, just like, you've got to be kidding me. And Austin just flipping him off and
Right.
proceeding to beat him up and just, jack that sumbitch up to the ceiling. And while the Undertaker is going up, he's like, just like, and you can hear it echo throughout the entire arena.
Right.
And while his music's being played, and he's smiling and laughing at this because he knows that over the edge is where he's gonna get the opportunity with the title shot.
Right.
In a special, in a one-on-one match with not one but two special guest referees in both Vince and Shane McMahon. But now we're going to get to that pay-per-view in Over the Edge. And yes, before anyone out there sees this and, hears this name, this is the pay-per-view. This is the event. Unfortunately, on May 23rd, 1999, this was the Owen Hart tragedy that what happened that night.
Yeah, so just a quick backstory. Let me take this part here real quick. For in case there's any just wrestling fans that don't know, this is like one of the biggest deaths in the history of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
From the I heard this story like really, really in depth from a podcast called Grilling JR with JR and Conrad Thompson. And they just kind of talked about this night. And basically, long story short is this was the WWE trying to keep pace with WCW at the time. WCW had a wrestler that went by the name of Sting. And Sting used to
Sting.
Yeah, so Sting used to go down to the ring on like a zip line type thing, almost just like he would get down there and he would just get down there and then he would just pull the cord off the back of him and then the cord would go back up.
Yeah, well, it wasn't actually a zip line like you go like it was more he was like dropping from the ceiling, being attached, but safely.
So he was so he was essentially lowered down to the ring. Mm-hmm. And then when he popped the cord off his back, the cord would just go back up. They would pull it back up.
Or reverse. They would drop the cable to him, he would attach it to his back, and he would just go shooting up for a quick exit. There are some episodes on WCW Monday Nitro that you guys could go and see on the network, and you'll see this. But
right. And so you had WWE was trying to keep pace with all that. So one of the things that WWE was doing is they decided that they were going to do the same thing with Owen Hart.
Well, he was at this point he was known as the Blue Blazer.
Yeah, he was as
a superhero-ish gimmick.
Yeah,
that was heel.
Yeah, so he long story short, he didn't really care for it. He didn't like it. He didn't feel comfortable about it, but everyone insisted that he do it. He ends up doing it. The cable breaks on his way to the ring. And from the podcast that I mentioned earlier, Grilling JR, that he's telling the story that Owen Hart had a free fall from about 50 feet and hit the turnbuckle of the ring on the way down and just didn't die on impact, but was pretty much dead once he was in the ring. And just like a huge, it's just like one of the scars on wrestling. And it's just something people that either watched it or have watched it will never forget. Snow, maybe you can touch on it a little bit, but in this, is this on the network, the WWE network?
No, the pay-per-view itself, when they brought out the network back in when they first started, this was the first time that the Over the Edge pay-per-view, the 1999 version, was seen on any on a VHS or or any recording, unless you recorded it on VHS back in 99. This was the first time it was released, but they had edited out that part where where Owen was supposed to have his match. They got to the they were building up the Godfather versus Blue Blazer, and then they cut that part out, and they seamed it with whatever was supposed to take place throughout. But they edited out heavily on with the Owen Hart, because this was a very bad tragedy that shouldn't have happened. It did, and unless you were there on that night, no one saw what happened, on the live pay-per-view feed. You had to be there in person to see the unfortunate tragedy that happened. And let me reiterate, this was the first time that had been released, like the actual pay-per-view. There was no VHS release after, normally after an event, like maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month, or actually like several weeks afterwards, they would release the pay-per-view for people to buy on VHS tapes, or on DVD later in, when we got to DVDs and everything.
Right.
But they did not release this at all. This footage was buried, was locked in their vault, not to be published or anything. And such that this event and Owen's tragedy caused a lawsuit between Owen's wife and the WWF/WWE, and they eventually settled out of court upon millions of dollars and everything. Do your I want everyone out there to do their research and understand why this is why Bret Hart hasn't, or sorry, not Bret Hart, Owen Hart, hasn't been as really heavily shown as much in WWE light because of this tragedy.
And it's just really it comes down to all being just like respect for the family. But we're not here just to talk about that. This pay-per-view, Snowman, go ahead and go into the pay-per-view. I just wanted to give a little bit of backstory in case there's anyone who hadn't heard about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, this was a tragic night, and we still miss Owen Hart to this day. For the pay-per-view side, or for the actual non-bad part of this whole night, the one staying on this whole night, we're going to get into actually Sunday Night Heat a little. Yes, I'm talking about Sunday Night Heat, and a show that was done on Sundays, maybe like an hour show where they would show like dark matches and everything, kind of like main event now at WWE live events. But they actually did Heat as a pre-show for the pay-per-view. So this was an actual cool show to watch. And we could see Matt, RIP Blue Blazer. Yeah, he was known as the Blue Blazer at that time, but he was Owen Hart.
Right.
So, but on Heat, Shane McMahon comes out with a couple members of the corporate ministry and proceeds to make a match as a tune-up for one Stone Cold Steve Austin against Mideon later that night on Heat for a tune-up, for the pay-per-view itself, before the pay-per-view. And Vince comes out and, after he arrives at the arena and gets word of what happened, Vince comes out. It's like, Shane, this match is not going to happen. Austin's not going to have a tune-up match. Shane comes out, back and forth. They're like, okay, well, if Austin's not going to be in this match with me as a special guest referee tonight as a warm-up, then the only person I will accept as a substitute, because if he does not compete, I will strip him of the WWF title as a breach of contract, as he is now in charge.
Right.
The only substitute I will take for Austin is you, Vince. It's like, okay, you're on. And you can, if you watch the Sunday Night Heat, the Over the Edge pre-show, I call it a pre-show, but it's the Sunday Night Heat.
Right, Sunday Night Heat.
You can see that that visual of Vince McMahon just saying, "You're on."
That's a good Vince voice also. A little
Yeah.
raspiness in there.
Oh yeah. So Vince has a match with Mideon, which turns into, just a setup to knock Vince out of commission for his role in the main event on the pay-per-view itself.
Of course.
So we get to the match, pay-per-view, end of the night. And the match was barbaric. I mean, it was brutal, hard-hitting, and Vince was able to get out there, but he wasn't making he was trying to make the count. Shane McMahon pulls him off. It's like, no. Austin, who still doesn't trust McMahon, tries to turn Vince around. Like, hey, what the heck's going on? Shane decides to push Vince into Austin. Austin falls back. Undertaker rolls him up, and a Shane McMahon fast count.
Fastest count in history.
Oh, one of the fastest counts.
Yeah, that count was ridiculous.
And new World Wrestling Federation champion, The Undertaker, and a stunned up and a pissed off rattlesnake.
Oh yeah, just the way the fans like him.
Oh yeah. So that's where we leave Over the Edge. And we go into the June 7th Raw. And at this time, between Over the Edge, for that whole week, for couple weeks, there's this feeling, this summons of within the corporate ministry, that there's going to be this higher, greater power. This higher power, this greater power. The previous Raw, it's supposed to be the ultimate personification of evil. Now, we thought Undertaker was all of that, but we're getting, this warning that he's coming. He's going to be here tonight. Well, the previous Raw, Austin finds, sees after he gets tied up, sees who the higher power is. And on the following Sunday Night Heat afterwards, on June 6th, goes on a rampage. So that following Raw on June 7th, 1999, Vince comes out in his wrestling gear and he challenges Son to a no holds barred match.
And what is his wrestling gear? A pair of sweatpants and a tank top, or
a tank top and some black jeans and boots, because you want to see that jacked up, Vince McMahon just strutting down. But he was jacked. I'll give him that. He was a jacked up SOB.
Right.
So he calls out Shane. He wants to challenge him to a no holds barred, winner take all match for controlling interest in the WWE. Shane's controlling interest, 50%, and Vince's 50% control. Winner take all. Shane accepts it. Well, after a quick cup of coffee, like immediately following his challenge, and he walks to the back in a commercial break, corporate ministry comes on out, and they call out the higher power, which he comes out, and Vince, who's find where he's at in the back on the screen, wants to know the evil son of a bitch's ID, or wants to know who the evil maniacal person is.
Yeah.
So we get the close up, and I need to do this. It's me, Austin.
Yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch. From JR, there's some versions on YouTube that have him say that, cut that out, but it's me, Austin. Oh, son of a bitch. It was me all along, Austin.
Yeah. That's like one of the most memorable like Vince McMahon lines ever. And you know, you said you know, you did that mind blown or whatever, but
Mhm.
that is a I think at the time you were just kind of, yeah, it's a mic drop one, but also at the time you were just kind of like you couldn't believe it. It was like one of the, no one was expecting it. It was pure, you know, shock factor, and so that whole thing was just crazy.
Oh
So
yeah, this was the moment because McMahon was forced into this position with having the Undertaker abduct his own daughter Stephanie and sacrifice, not really sacrifice to a unholy wedding,
right.
but
I mean, when you look back at it, you're like, oh my gosh, he was the one doing this whole thing, and then you think back like, oh, what about all the stuff that happened to Stephanie? And you know, it's
yeah.
just wild.
Well, I mean, granted, it was Shane McMahon who admitted that he was the reason that Steph was in this unholy wedding and picked out her dress.
Right.
But this moment alone, McMahon was was com- basically showing off his master plan and saying, Austin made me do this. When he won the WWF title at WrestleMania, I knew that there was no doubt I will not stoop. No price I will not pay to make your life and on this earth a complete and total utter hell.
Okay.
So we get McMahon, you know, revealing and thanking all the members of the corporate ministry. And then we get to see at the top of the ramp two people, Stephanie McMahon and Linda McMahon, the CEO at this of the company.
Right.
And they kind of want to come out and kind of pull back the reins on Vince McMahon's little power trip that he's now having, and letting him know that the lie that you and Shane have been telling, that you each own 50% of this company, it's a lie. You know damn well that there are four of us and we all have four equal shares. So 25, 25, 25, and 25% between all four McMahons.
Right.
Well, and proceeded to let Vince know that she called an emergency meeting, a board meeting, emergency board meeting. Well, I wasn't informed of that, Linda. Oh, you weren't? Oh well. And proceeded to announce that there's gonna be some changes around the office, like cut off jeans for the, you know, for there's not gonna be a dress code at the office anymore. Maybe some cut off jeans, or you know, maybe and we're gonna have a little bit more profanity around the office. You know, sprinkle in a little hell and damn it. Maybe a flipping of the bird a little bit.
Right.
And you know what? And maybe after a nice, long, hard day, maybe a nice cold beer to quench your thirst. It's like, it's like, is that gonna be? It's like, okay. Basically, was dropping hints that she's announcing that she has stepped down as CEO, and not before she handpicked her own successor.
Yep.
And Stephanie and Linda want to introduce this new CEO.
The glass breaks. Right.
Oh boy. Yes. Stone Cold CEO.
And so correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he come out, he came out in a tie, right?
Yep. He came out in the power tie.
Yeah.
And the
So
look on Vince and Shane McMahon's face.
no, but he had the he had the
The tie.
he had the jeans, and
Yep.
then he was wearing
The baseball jersey. His
yeah.
Stone Cold 316
Yeah,
baseball jersey.
and then he had a tie on it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, well, hell, Vince, you know, since I don't need this power tie anymore because, you know, as you know, at the end of this meeting, I don't need this power tie anymore because, well, you know, old Stone Cold, he's got the power finger. So here's to ya.
Yeah.
and proceeded to, throw his weight around as CEO.
Right.
And King basically highlights this whole thing. Rattlesnakes don't make good CEOs.
Yeah. Thanks. We didn't know that.
And this was literally the best time in wrestling because Austin as CEO running the company, and now he's gonna on this Raw, he starts making matches telling, tonight, well, at King of the Ring, I'm gonna be in a match, and it's gonna be me against both you and Vince and that little bastard, your son Shane, in a handicap match. And at a time, date, and place of my choosing and conditions of my choosing, Stone Cold Steve Austin will take back his World Wrestling Federation Championship. And makes some matches with for the Union to have a free pass on that night.
Right.
But that night, with Austin becoming the CEO of the WWF, and the following week where he's just going through the office at WWE Titan Towers.
Oh yeah. So he walks in.
It's priceless.
And the lady, he walks in the door from the street, and the lady's sitting there at the front desk receptionist, and the phone rings, and she says, "Oh, thank you for calling World Wrestling Federation. How may I help you?" And he said, "How the hell are you answering that phone? That's not how you answer a phone." And he's like, "Wait till someone calls again." And then someone calls again.
I'll take this one.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell you want? Or who the hell is this? What the hell do you want? Vince McMahon. Well, I don't know if I'll talk to him, but hey, if I don't see you later, I'll see you later. Basically, just changing up the system there. It's like, okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, where's my office? You're on the top floor. Top floor. All right. And then as he's walking away, ring. Who the hell is this?
Yeah.
What the hell do you want?
Yeah, then he goes upstairs and he continues to wreak havoc. Everyone's drinking and everyone's doing all this crazy. He's making everyone do
beer. Yeah. It's like we're gonna have a good old fashioned beer drinking contest, and fires someone and promotes the mail clerk to a board position.
Yeah, and he said he threw all the beers out at the board meeting, and he said, "We're gonna have a good old fashioned drinking contest, and when I come back in here, if you're still standing, you still have a job."
Yeah. It goes through the financials, and it's like, oh, you go through the books. It's like, well, we're gonna change this. This is now the beer budget.
Right.
Okay.
What was it? It was what was it? It was Shane McMahon's salary. Yeah, and he's like, that's
that off, and that is now the beer budget.
Yeah, he said that's
and even took some zeros from another account. I forgot who it was off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And we're gonna give some of those to Mick Foley, because he needs some for his medical bills.
Right.
And before on his when he was announced, he did in fact drew himself up a new contract and removed a clause that he was not allowed to touch Vince McMahon unless physically provoked. Well, that's been changed. So now it's open season again on Vince McMahon.
Right.
And add some extra zeros to his paycheck.
Of course.
So, and then at the end of the night, Vince McMahon's office is cleared out of all of his nice stuff and has some bullshit dumped in his office. Just wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow of just shit in his office.
Yeah, horse manure.
Yes. So that was the following week. Raw June 24 or Raw 14th, 1999. This builds all the way up till King of the Ring.
Which yeah, go ahead.
June 27th, 1999. And the match made between Austin, McMahon, and Shane was a handicap ladder match for 100% 100% control ownership of the World Wrestling Federation in a ladder match.
Okay.
As you go through the history for our listeners later on the WWE network. So we're just cutting through some stuff. And of course, on Heat, Shane and Vince, are cutting a promo about how this is going to be a night to, that they will never forget and that this is their night. Well, HBK comes out and decides, as the commissioner, he's going to make a warm-up match for a McMahon, for Vince McMahon that night. And he's going to take on the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock, in a tune-up. Well, Vince is like, no, this is not going to happen tonight. Screw you, Michaels, and screw you, Shamrock. Because this is an important night. Nothing's going to mess with this night. Well, if you could find a substitutable replacement, because if you don't compete in this match on Raw, on Heat, you will forfeit the King of the Ring match, and I will give 100% complete ownership over to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, okay, it's going to be Midian. No. Nope. It's going to be one of the Acolytes. Nope, you can't. They're booked. And the only person left is... That's right. I will take one McMahon for another. So Vince decides to throw Shane to the wolves.
Like he has done so many times in the past.
Oh, yeah. So that was on Heat. And Shane McMahon gets through that match thanks to some help from Steve Blackman, the Lethal Weapon.
Yep.
Now the match, the handicap match for 100% complete ownership. And this match was so janked up for Stone Cold from the get-go. Every time he tried to go for that damn briefcase, the briefcase would just rise up for no apparent reason, just out of his hands every time he went. And every time he would beat McMahon's up two times from Sunday, he would never get close. And Shane McMahon, after knocking over Vince and Austin off the ladder while they were going for the briefcase, Shane sets it up and scurries up, unhooks, and leaves Dodge.
Right.
And now the McMahons have 100% complete ownership. And Stone Cold's no longer the CEO. So this will lead us into the following night, the following Raw on June 28th. And the corporate ministry and Vince and Shane are celebrating because they have ownership, and Shane McMahon proceeds to fire Stone Cold Steve Austin from CEO. And they're celebrating that The Undertaker has kept the World Wrestling Federation Championship.
Okay, so
and defeating The Rock at King of the Ring.
Did they I'm trying to see here. Did they put someone back as CEO? Did they put Linda back, or they hire somebody else? Or
they basically said that it put everything back the way it was.
Oh, okay.
Basically. So while they're celebrating and saying that Austin's gonna, if you want to see Austin tonight, he's here tonight, and he will be competing in a preliminary match. And if you all want to, continue to see Austin after the event's over, you could stay and take pictures as Austin helps clean the ring up and pack it up to get it to the next town. So he's basically just went from here down to the bottom rung.
Right.
A curtain jerker. But not before Austin comes out and, well, kind of puts a fork in that idea, that plan, because if you remember, Stone Cold Steve Austin as CEO had said that at time, date, and place, and stipulations of his choosing, he would get a World Wrestling Federation Championship match. Well, figuring that he might get screwed on June 27th, 1999. As CEO, he booked a match for June 28th, 1999, that he will go one-on-one with The Undertaker for the World Wrestling Federation Championship.
Smart man.
And the stipulation that Stone Cold has picked out, if anyone, the key word, anyone, gets within 10 feet of that ring on that night, Undertaker would be disqualified and Austin would become World Wrestling Federation champion. So we have a main event match. Undertaker versus Stone Cold, WWF title. And this match was this is the rarest time for the this is one of the rare matches that the World Wrestling Federation Championship, the WWE Championship, now the title has changed hands on a Raw. This was an important match for Raw.
Wait, so this wasn't the first time that it happened, was it?
Nope.
Okay.
Before WrestleMania, earlier that year, between The Rock and Mankind, there was a ladder match, and The Rock regained the World Wrestling Federation Championship on that night on Raw.
Okay.
As that Mankind and The Rock were going in their series with the WWF title from the Royal Rumble, from St. Valentine's Day Massacre, Royal Rumble, the halftime heat during the Super Bowl, the empty arena match, and then a ladder match to determine, this was to see who was going to be facing Austin at WrestleMania. I'm not gonna tell any more about that because that's the future. So
we'll leave that alone.
Back to now. So this was a title. We had a title change hands on Raw. Rare occasion that this has ever happened, that we have this on Raw with the WWE title.
Okay, so
this is a match you guys need to go watch.
Yeah, so the Undertaker loses his title to Stone Cold. Stone Cold becomes the WWF champion, and after the match, Undertaker pops Austin in the head with the belt, right?
Yep, with the WWF title, and proceeds to bust him open. And that's how we end Raw, is Undertaker just beating up on Austin, a bloodied Austin.
Right.
And on the next Sunday Night Heat on July 4th, Undertaker challenges Austin to a match, at Fully Loaded, a rematch for the World Wrestling Federation title in a first blood match.
Okay.
So we go into to Raw's July 5th. Austin accepts the match for Fully Loaded. As the last time he was in a first blood match, Undertaker was the one who busted him open and cost him the title that gave Kane the WWF Championship at King of the Ring 98 in the infamous King of the Ring Hell in a Cell moment. So Vince comes out and it's like, this is Austin. I've had it between the both of us. This has got to end between the two of us. What if I was to pique your interest of you getting rid of me? Would you be interested?
Forever, right?
Yeah. Never see him again. It's like, hell yeah. Then at Fully Loaded, if you somehow defeat The Undertaker, you will never see Vince McMahon again. However, should The Undertaker beat you, then never again can you challenge for the World Wrestling Federation Championship in your entire career. Ever again. And this, Austin, this one way or another, will be the end of an era. That moment right there is etched for multiple reasons, because this is the end of the Austin McMahon rivalry right here.
Right.
As we get into Fully Loaded and the main event of the First Blood end of an era match. Now, before we get into that, on July 25th, 1999, Fully Loaded, the Sunday Night Heat before the pay-per-view, Undertaker got one up on Austin by attacking him backstage and busting him open, like he has done in the previous weeks leading up to Fully Loaded after losing the WWF title.
He's trying to make that skin tender so that
he's trying to weaken that, keep that wound fresh.
Yeah, so that when they fight at the Fully Loaded pay-per-view, you could get an easy one.
But so he was able to bust him open at the end of Heat. During the pay-per-view itself, middle-ish of the pay-per-view, Austin gets his payback and busts Undertaker open. Was able to get him to bust him open enough. So now we get to the main event, the match of the night. And let me emphasize how important this night was. So important this night was because the set for the set for the Fully Loaded, if you go back and watch this on the network or on YouTube, the build up for this match was awesome. The stage had a picture of Austin busted up, a picture of Vince McMahon busted up, bleeding, and the Undertaker, just that Ministry of Darkness, look, just so serious. This was a build-up that I loved, because you knew that one way or another, Austin was never going to get a title shot ever again, a championship world title match ever again, or Vince McMahon was leaving for good. The match, the Fully Loaded First Blood end of an era match, was barbaric. Was a barroom brawl, Pier 6, everything. So much that we had interferences from Shane McMahon trying to help Undertaker. We had an appearance from that X to the P to the A to the C, X-Pac, getting payback on Undertaker. And Austin using a camera even to bust open the Undertaker.
Right.
And you could see Austin busting open Undertaker, and as Undertaker setting up for the tombstone, referee, who's groggy, sees Undertaker, rings the bell, and McMahon, no, Austin wins. McMahon's gone
forever.
He's gone. Well, not forever, not until after SummerSlam. As stated from the Triple H broadcast we did a while back.
Right.
As he makes his return, thanks to a certain clause in the contract between these two gentlemen. But back to the Fully Loaded for a quick second. This was after the match was over, even Undertaker kept assaulting Austin, busting him open and everything, to which McMahon's just after Undertaker leaves and Austin's busted open, McMahon's I'm gone. I can't believe it. Austin's he wants to shake his hand. Well, Vince shakes his hand and gets a stunner.
In typical fashion.
And that's how we end Fully Loaded. And this is how we end the show, the Shizzo. A hell of a match. Go watch this pay-per-view. Watch the build-up for it. It's
Yeah, so we really didn't do enough justice by talking about
we
if
can't.
if you want to be entertained just by this whole build up, then you should go watch all this, and we'll put it all in the show notes. But one of the things that is most entertaining is what we were talking about earlier, as Austin as CEO going down to the corporate office like that. That is something. I don't know. I guess there's a few segments in there, but it's probably a good 10 to 12 minutes worth of video that they show Austin at the corporate building. So it's totally worth it. You should watch it all. Not just watch that part, but that's like more of like a comedic spot. But
Oh yeah.
the matches are great. The promos are great. Just go
Yeah.
make sure you watch it for sure.
Yeah, like any good match I've ever recommended on with this podcast, the buildups are so intense and so beautifully built. Even the promos, right before the match, or even to get you guys to watch the pay-per-views, are built so beautifully. The intro for the Fully Loaded pay-per-view was awesome. The build-up for the Austin and Taker's First Blood match was awesome. And the King of the Rings, build-up was beautiful. So, but go and watch this stuff. This is beautiful content that you guys will fall in love with and remember. It's like, dude, I remember watching this and this was awesome. Go and watch it.
Right. So, okay, Snow. Now,
But we are done.
Now is the time, as we do at the end of our shows here are for the top 15. This was number 7 today. Next week is number 6. We need our hint for 6.
6. Well, I think I could do 6 because we're gonna jump. I think we could safely say that we're now going to get into prime real estate of gold moments. I was saving this stuff in my back pocket. This was moments you want to, and rivalries you want to keep in the back pocket,
right?
For a good rainy day and a good moment. But number 6, the Sinister 6, is going to be involving 2 individuals who, I'm going to say, dominated the year 00, double zeros, 2000. If you can figure out the 2 men who I'm talking about, and we've already covered this at a earlier show and a very special show where I was not at home, I was somewhere else.
Oh, I know what this is. Okay.
Yeah. But we're going to talk about these 2 individuals and how they dominated the 2000s. Their epic series of matches. And that's all I'm going to say about this, because this is a game that you guys need to be smelling what I'm cooking.
Okay. So
that's it. That's all you get.
Before we get out of here, a few things right here. If you want to follow the Snowman on Twitter and all of his wrestling talk, you can follow the Flex Network. It's FlexNet_PW Elite. You'll find him there. He will be doing all of his wrestling there. And then let's see. If you want to follow the Flex Network on Twitter, you can follow at the Flex Network 1 on Twitter. And make sure that you are in tune with our other shows that we have coming up. Tomorrow night will be myself with Cam. We'll be talking all of the NFL action. We just wrapped up week 7. I am 7-0 in one of my fantasy football leagues. and it is looking good, boys. We're looking all right. So we're gonna keep
Not
that
bad,
train
not bad.
rolling. Keep that train rolling, and then Snow will be back on Thursday and let you know everything you need to know about SmackDown, Raw, AEW, NXT, all the good stuff, and he's got it all. And he's going to be doing all of that stuff. So just make sure that that you're in tuned with what we're doing, and we're really making a push here. We want to we're trying to grow our Facebook audience. Now that we're running these Facebook videos through Facebook
Uh,
Live and YouTube
and Twitter, don't
and,
forget, because we actually Matt and the boys actually started doing some stuff on Twitter.
So with the program that we're using here, the Snowman and myself, we run primarily through Facebook and YouTube, and then with our fantasy football shows, we run through Facebook and Twitter, or YouTube and Twitter, however it ends up working out.
All three. They're on the Facebook, they're on the Twitter, and they're on the YouTube.
It just depends on what they're doing, but yeah, we're really making an effort to grow our following. So tell your friends about us, like, share, retweet. So
let's ask Matt what he thinks about this little shtick. Hey Matt, how you liking this shtick right now that we're promo that we're doing this for a promo for you guys and your content that's coming up? That's so good. Keep it up. I like the style. He likes it. So we're gonna keep plugging this stuff, especially for Sunday edition for their late start or for the early start on Sunday morning for all you Flex Finder.
Flex
for your start.
Yeah, for your start sit questions, you can bring those through us. We partner with Roster Watch, and so if you're looking to get connected with them.
Hey, speaking of Mr. Matt, it's like it just pops so hard. It's like, yeah, hey, I mean, he's tweeting right behind me. He's like,
yeah, dude,
he gets some messages to us.
Hey, right now he's sitting on your shoulder. That's what it looks like to me.
It's a Matt on my shoulder.
Matt's essentially your parrot, your pet parrot.
Rock.
Okay.
Plug my stuff. Rock. Plug my stuff. Flex Army.
Yeah. So, like I said, you can at Roster Watch on Twitter, rosterwatch.com. You could check them out. They give you, some fantasy rankings for you and stuff like that. The boys are there on Sunday morning for a start sit show, and they'll be answering all your questions. They'll be highly caffeinated early in the morning, maybe some nitro cold brews going on. Who knows?
That cheap plug again.
Yeah. Oh, that's not a cheap plug. Trust me, it's not cheap, but it is a plug.
And then do not forget, everyone, we are getting closer to Royal Rumble, so we're going to be getting closer and closer to getting ready for the Royal Rumble drawing in the next 2 months. So make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on all, so you can get your names into the Rumble.
Right. So if you would like to follow the Snowman outside of his wrestling stuff on Twitter, you can find him at AJS Dead Snow right there. It shows him. You can follow myself at MBWalters11 on Twitter. Find us on the Facebook and the Twitter and the Instagram.
Not cheap brew.
Yeah.
Matt.
Hey, he's right. If you Snowman, I know you don't get it down on the cold brews like me and Matt do.
Hey, I will drink. I was drinking a couple shows ago.
You know what? But your energy is already high enough. You don't need that cold brew in your system to get you popping out the screen.
Okay, if I had that kind of energy, I'd look like Matt behind me.
Yeah,
on my shoulder.
For sure. Matt the parrot. Hashtag Matt.
No, hoodie Matt the parrot.
Hoodie Matt the parrot. Okay, anyway, let's
inside joke.
let's shut this thing down here for tonight. This will be it. We'll be back next week with number 6, and then I will be back tomorrow night with all of the NFL action, going through the games and the surprises and the letdowns and all that good stuff. So as for myself and the Snowman, we will catch you guys later.
Later.